Welcome, Let Freedom Ring. Before I get into anything, just want to give a shout out to the Jax Rangers show. As I'm a contributor on that show, we got to meet Bodine Walker, Mr. MVP, in person Saturday morning at 1 a.m. as he has been returning to the Free Jacks. So it was really cool. So check that out on YouTube on the Jax Rangers show. You'll see me, you'll see Phil, you'll see Bozo getting to see Bodine as he returns to the States. But this week, my guest, Dave Hall, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome to the show. And my co-host,
what?
Jesse DeLay, a.k.a. Uncle Jesse.
Hello.
A.k.a. Gentle Jesse.
That's what I'm known as around the pickleball court. Gentle Jesse.
Okay. All right. Well, we are going to get into that for sure, because I got a feeling there's probably a lot of nicknames in pickleball. But let's get to know Dave a little bit. Dave, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Sure. Yeah. Dave Hall. I grew up in Amherst, New Hampshire. I was born there, second generation. Spent my life growing up in the mean streets of Amherst Village. A village idiot running around. Went to private school down in Massachusetts for a couple of years, Tabor Academy, and then went to Bates College up in Lewiston, Maine.
Oh, nice.
Then spent a year out in Telluride and blew out my knee third day skiing, so that was fun.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, working 3 jobs, subsistent living, and came back and got into real estate. Was going to originally go down to Boston, and got licensed down there. Then my father, who also was in real estate, had just sold his brokerage firm, and he had been developing some land, and asked me if I wanted to get into construction and brokerage, and ended up getting licensed in New Hampshire, and 25 plus years in real estate, and built our family house up in Mount Vernon.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Okay.
And have been up there, and member of the Mount Vernon Fire Department for 20 plus years. And
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, did you go to Sauhegan?
No, that was before. So I went. It was MASH at the time. So it was the Milford area senior high. So it was Amherst, Milford, Mount Vernon.
Okay.
So I was there for 1 year, and then went off to Massachusetts.
Okay, awesome. Because there's definitely like an Amherst, Milford, or Sauhegan, I should say, like rivalry there.
Definitely
between
now.
the two towns. Yeah. It's just kind of like Nashua now. Like when I was going through Nashua, there was one school, and now the rivalry is north and south, which Jesse's kids know more about than I do.
Right.
But what are 3 things?
South.
Go south? Oh yeah. I actually root for South because I was a Purple Panther, but I grew up on the north side, so I'm very conflicted. I can't root for BG. I know that. That throw a curveball in there, but kind of talked about a little bit. But what are 3 things that everybody should know about you?
Boy, I don't know. 3 things that everyone should know about me. I've been 16 years in recovery for drinking, for alcoholism,
nice.
And not that everyone needs to know that, but that's a big part of my life. I have twin 18-year-old daughters.
Oh, okay.
And a great family, and I don't know. It's hard to say. I think what's people need to know about me is that I was highly identified with certain things in my life, roles, titles, the desire to accumulate, stuff, and that has since changed with a change in perspective that was brought about some self-reflective work that I've done over the years. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. I like that. Now I want to ask you the big question on Let Freedom Ring. Sticking with the theme of the show, what does it mean to you to be an American?
Boy, that's kind of a charged question right now with everything going on. I like to think that we're still the country of freedom, of peace. But I got to be honest, it feels like we are really divisive right now, with a lot of stuff from politics to economics to, I don't know. I think that we are. I still think the country is a beacon of light for others, and I think we have a big set of shoes to step into to continue that role in the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and I think like we do get into a lot about like how divisive we are, but I feel like it's all like that's always. It just feels even worse now, right? And I don't know what you guys think. Is social media play? I feel like it's toned down, right? Because there's not an election going on. We're getting pretty close to another one soon. Do you feel like that plays a role in like people being,
Yeah, I definitely think that we're of the generation that like we didn't have smartphones growing up as a kid. So watching that transition where there's just this massive barrage of information that we're constantly getting, whether we're actively seeking it or not. And I think that the people who are good at disseminating the information know all the buttons to hit. And if they have a message that needs to be delivered or they think should be delivered, they have a systematic way of getting that out there.
Absolutely.
Right. Regarding social media, my wife and I have a couple hundred mutual friends. And when it comes to the political posts, mine are all for one side and hers are all for another, even though we have all these mutual friends. And her and I agree on politics, which we won't get into, but it's just funny how you speak of the algorithms, how they're targeted towards certain people to give them information whether they want it or not.
Yeah.
And it's very strange with so many, similarities between my wife and I in our interests and what we search for. The fact that one is skewed one way for me and another way for her.
Yeah, like I got an example for. How often do you talk about pet insurance?
Never,
right?
I have a pet. Does he need insurance?
Do you talk about pet insurance?
I do not.
So I don't know, a year or so ago, we were outside in the backyard. My sister was up, and she was talking about adopting a dog, and she had asked the question, "Do you have pet insurance?" And I'm like, "No, I don't have pet insurance." And within 12 hours, she's getting emails.
Oh, geez.
On pet insurance. And I don't know if she Googled it. Maybe she did, but it just seemed ironic that. So the point being is like, the surveillance masters who are,
right.
You tell me my phone's not listening to me, I would disagree with you, but.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've ordered.
Especially when it comes to getting new clients and reoccurring revenue,
Yeah, they have the information and they know how to work it.
No, absolutely. I mean, now you go on, you might buy something online, and then on Facebook you get all the advertisements for something like that. And, we know. I mean, that's just kind of how it went. And I wonder about the algorithm because I remember when they introduced the like button, probably 2010, maybe 2011, maybe 2012.
Before my time.
It's been over 10 years. And now I'm starting to wonder, I think that like button, because you're saying, like, I think that kind of generates, and I could be wrong, what you might be seeing in your feed. Because now I start to know what you're into.
Well, when it comes to those type posts, political posts, I know I personally don't engage. Yeah. I don't like or comment or dislike or anything when it comes to something that comes up on my feed. I can't speak for Mary. Maybe we should get her on the show sometime.
Yeah, maybe.
But I talked with my uncle about it because he found it pretty fascinating as well. I think Mary and I have like 225 mutual friends. You're one of them, and 224 other people, which I'm not going to name right now.
We'll go down the list.
Right, just go down the list of mutual friends. But our mutual friends, like any small sample size of people, they have different interests. It's not. They're all our mutual friends aren't left or right or center or down or up or anything like that. It's a pretty good cross section of people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, honestly, and I avoid all that stuff now on social media. When I was younger, you think it's like, man, my message is so good, but this is going to change someone's mind. I know if I get this out there and they're going to read it right the exact way that I'm reading it. No, absolutely not. You're not changing anybody's mind. But anyways, I want to get into this because I'm really excited about it because this is a sport that I have been very curious about. You're seeing it on television. You're seeing it on social media. You're seeing it everywhere. I started to hear more about it because Jesse plays. But pickleball. What is pickleball?
Good question. Well, let me start by saying how I got into pickleball. I have this guy to blame.
Oh, okay.
He called me up one day and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know what's going on." He said, "Come down to Nashua." He said, "I want to show you this game, pickleball." I'm like, "Well, what is it?" And he's like, "Well, it's kind of like ping pong. It's kind of like tennis. It's like, racquetball, kind of smushed down into a smaller court." And I didn't have anything to really do at the time, so I was like, "All right, I'll indulge the request." And went down there, and I cut my teeth in my first game with I forget who it was, but anyhow,
I believe it was just you and I.
It might have been, just you and I. Yeah, usually it happens like you do like a one-on-one. You get the introduction because there's some rules and some, just you got to understand like kind of like the court itself. But it's a condensed version. I guess the closest sport I guess I would say is tennis.
Yes.
But smaller. We have paddles. We don't have rackets. Rackets are strung.
Yeah, I think you have one right here.
Paddles. Yes, I do have one right here. So this is a pickleball paddle, and this is a X40 ball, and the 40 stands for the number of holes. Yeah, and so the paddles come in a variety of different shapes. So this is an elongated head. Other paddles will be shorter but wider, and then the handle can be either elongated, which is what this is, or shorter, depending upon the personal preference of the player. And they range from, you can buy a cheap wooden one for $20, or you can go all the way up to $250. But this is the weapon we use. The ball can vary. That's a 40-hole ball. There's a 26-hole ball, which generally gets played on indoor courts. It's a little softer, it bounces a little different. But so it took me a while to kind of like understand the game initially. And I think probably the first year I probably played, 10 games maybe, and took a few months off, and then he invited me back to play some more. And I don't know, just at one point it just clicked, and it was like, oh, this game is interesting. For me, being a bit of a type A personality and mildly competitive, it was like, I jokingly say that someone's gonna like do some like blood sampling on pickleball players, because the amount of like adrenaline and cortisol or whatever those feel good feeling chemicals are that get released. It's like the game gets played with this like pleasure pain relationship, and I think there's more pleasure being put out in the game, which keeps people coming back.
Exactly.
And it's the pain of not wanting to repeat, what you screwed up in the game that, is also another aspect to it. But I think also probably more importantly is just the community of the pickleball players. I didn't realize that it's almost like a second family.
Right.
You get to
very welcoming.
If you play a lot, you see a lot of these people often, and you get to know them, and they get to know you, and before you know it, they know your family, and they know who you are and what you do, and your challenges and struggles in life. And I would say probably 98% of the people I've met in the pickleball community have been awesome. There's, obviously you have your couple people that take it a little over the top, but no, you're fine. No, but it's awesome, and it's a great body-mind experience for me. I love getting out there, running around, sweating, shagging down balls, having fun. There's a lot of I can't say the word, but giving each other hard times. Right.
Chirping.
Yeah.
Chirping.
Okay. Yeah, and that's that adds another element to it. And the other thing I would just say is that this is probably one of the biggest equalizer sports I've ever seen, and there are individuals who you would look at who have mobility issues, who will shuffle onto a court. They may be bent over, and you might be thinking like, God, I gotta take it easy on this guy. And next thing you know, he's placing balls,
he's gonna feed
angles, and he's just taking it to you. And you walk off humbled, and better off for it. So.
Yeah, I want to get into this because Jesse's been hyping this up for a little while now.
Yeah, I mean. If I may, my introduction to pickleball was by accident. I was out riding bikes with Texas, and we went down to Fields Grove, and Dave spoke of the community. We asked them what they were playing. They told us. So I went that night, bought the cheap $20 paddles he's talking about.
Yep.
Bought a pair from a sporting goods store. Excuse me. And came back the next day with my backpack and my sporting goods, and sat there with Texas, and they said, "Do you want to play?" And we're like, "Yeah, we got our own stuff." Like I felt like I was 7 years old. They brought us in, and taught us where to stand, how to serve, all the rules and the guidelines of playing the game properly, and I've been with it ever since. In the wintertime, I choose to play indoors, but there are a group of folks that were hardcore, shoveling the courts, putting salt down.
Oh my gosh.
Cleaning the courts every day. There's some multiple group chats talking about, I'm going here at this time. Hey, the courts are shoveled. I primarily play at Fields Grove because it's close to my house, but Nashua just opened up 6 courts on Shady Lane, which have lights for the nighttime. But Fields Grove is where I typically play. And yeah, Dave spoke to the community. It's, they had a coat drive that they've been doing for years, in the wintertime. And, there's cookouts, I don't want to call them banquets, but the one indoor was, I'd call that a banquet.
That was a meetup, get together.
It was a meetup, but we all got together in the wintertime, played indoors. They provided food, and it was a great night. And now that the sun's shining again, we get to go back outside. But there are some folks that prefer the indoor games. It's a different ball. It's a different game.
Well, I was going to ask about the ball. It feels it's like the material of a wiffle ball almost.
I don't know if it's the same thickness, but we won't get into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this thing kind of moving around?
Oh, yeah, it
Yes,
can
sir.
move.
Yeah.
It's got some zip on it. I should add, too, is that if anyone's looking to understand, where are these places, I found you could download an app called Places to Play, and that's specifically for pickleball. And it doesn't have all of the places, but it will have, a number of places. But generally in the greater Merrimack area, I'm familiar with Fields Grove, which is off of Main Street in Nashua, and that's usually a morning group that kicks off down there. Then there's usually an afternoon group around 2.
Correct.
Shady Lane in Nashua kicks off around 5, and they have lights in dedicated courts, so they'll go till sometimes 8, 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Greeley Park in Nashua. Yes. The Y in Nashua on Westwood in the wintertime.
Prior to COVID, I used to play at the Y in Merrimack.
Yep.
That was my indoor haunt for the wintertime, but then they moved all pickleball activities to Westwood.
Yep. Then you got a couple up in Manchester. You've got Rock Rimmon and Prout Park.
Okay.
I jokingly refer to myself as the traveling wildebeest. Too. I like this migration pattern. I'll go out to Portsmouth, up to Concord, down to Manchester, Nashua, Westford, Mass,
Westford,
in the Millworks in the wintertime.
Well, and I want to ask, are there leagues? What's the? It's on TV. I've seen pickleball, and every time I see it, I'm like, oh, text Jesse, hey, turn on ESPN. But what's the highest level? And are these? Because you guys are saying the spots. Is there a league where it's oh, tonight I'm playing Jesse, or whatever it is, or is it just kind of like we do in softball? It's who gets there, and that's not our non-league stuff.
That's typically the route that I go.
Okay.
The pickup games, and then you form. People kind of know how to play when they play with each other. So if there's a big dog game, then they'll let that happen.
Okay.
Or I feel like with pickleball, I could go anywhere in the country with my paddle and jump in and see where the level is, and if it's too much, then I'm going to learn something.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. There's a lot of just general rotational pickup play. Then there are structured tournaments where you sign up in advance, and tennis, there's a rating level. Some 2-0 is maybe a beginner. 3.5 is like I would say like an advanced intermediate, and then 4.0 is like your I would say pro, but your better players. And so you play in time, and if you play in these tournaments over time, you can get rated, and then you'll know where you are.
Similar to softball with the.
It's kind of like the
Ds
U-Trip
and Es.
website, kind of, or
Right. Correct.
Okay, that's pretty fascinating. Like I said, I've seen it when I saw it on TV. I was like, okay, this thing is growing. It's not just Jesse just being like, no, you need to check this out, you know. So no, that's really cool. Now I guess I got to ask you guys this too. Obviously, you know, you two have a friendship through it and everything like that, but what are some of your favorite moments that you've been having playing this? Is it the game? Is it is it the people you meet, or like, you know, what are some just great moments about it?
I think that there's not just one particular moment. There's a series of just being outside in the summertime when it's sunny out, and you get a nice cool breeze. Sometimes we bring music to kind of set the mood.
60s rock is
60s
the
rock.
go-to.
Yeah, some of the older folks who we let them kind of have the seniorage
Nobody wants
call
to
on
listen to what I listen
the
to.
music, but I don't know. It's just getting out there, knocking around. I think what in general, it's like sometimes when you have these volleys back and forth that are so competitive, and people are diving for stuff, and they're digging out balls, and they're getting them over, and then it's just going back and forth and back and forth. It's like, and then when the point finally ends, like there are times like when you'll stop in the middle, like in that game, you'll meet at the net and be like, man, that was awesome. Like, nice job. And I think it brings out like the competitiveness on everyone, but it's also, it kind of reminds me oddly of jiu-jitsu a little bit, in the sense of like you're trying to I won't say you're trying to destroy the person opposite you, but you're trying to bring out the best game you can for that other person, and also you're playing with a partner. Generally, you can play singles, but I prefer doubles.
I prefer that as well.
And you're just out there. You're having a good time. You're running around. You're getting that. You're feeling like you're doing something, in my opinion, productive.
All right.
I played a game to 18 one time.
To what? To 18?
To 18. Usually, typically the games go to 11, unless
Okay.
there's people waiting. Then you play to 9.
Yeah.
But it was, you have to win by 2, and we just kept going at it for a while. So how long do you think a typical 11-7 game goes? Maybe 15 minutes?
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. This game went on for a while, and I came out on the right side of the 18-16 victory. I'll never forget that. And yeah, the individual, every once in a while I would be able to get to a ball I didn't think I'd be able to get to, or swing as hard as I can and it just drops on my lap, and just miss, you know what I mean? Like, but it's all good. You know what I mean? I don't put pressure on myself. I don't want to lose. I don't want to embarrass myself and waste anybody's time. But if I make a mistake, sometimes I do it on purpose to upset Jim.
Yeah.
But no, not really. I'm kidding. But no, it's just I just keep coming back to the community, the folks that we play with that were welcoming to me, welcoming to Dave, and welcoming to anybody that wants to show up and play.
I want to ask this because when you first said pickleball, to me, I think we're at softball, and I pictured the game like pickle, that you used to play as a
Going
kid.
back and
When
forth,
you're in a pickle in a baseball game. Do we know why it's called pickleball?
So
we have some theories on it.
I have a theory that I learned from Bones, actually, former guest on the show. Sorry,
That's what co-hosts do. You got to say who's the former guest.
Yes, he's a former guest of the show. He learned at Nashville South that when they were developing the game, there was a dog named Pickles that kept taking the ball. They'd hit it, and the dog would run and grab it. So they started calling it Pickles Ball, and it turned into pickleball. That's the explanation that I just recently found.
It's the worst
that.
name of a sport imaginable. And there's a saying that it's a traction rather than promotion,
Yes.
right? And it's really hard to promote the sport with a name like pickleball. So that way you have to kind of come to it vicariously through other channels. But once you start playing it, you realize like this is a legit sport. If I had asked you, how long do you think pickleball's been around?
I'm gonna say, well, if you asked me this originally, I'd probably say what, 6-7 years, but I'm guessing it's got to be like 40.
I think it's upwards of 60.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay.
60.
Wow.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, I'm just finding it, and I'm mildly embarrassed to say that I hadn't known about this beforehand. But from what I understand, it started in the Washington State, I think. I'm not
believe
mistaken.
so.
Could be. I don't know. We'll have to fact check that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just starts, it's like anything. It sometimes does take time to grow something.
Well, there's some tennis players who are really upset with this sport. I ran into a guy the other day. I had my bag and I was walking out, and he had a shirt on that had some like tennis club or something. Like, oh, you play pickleball? He's like, no way. He's like, I stayed in the pure sport.
Oh,
and
gosh.
I'm like, all right, fair enough, But yeah.
And ping pong players love it because they can put the spin on it.
Yeah.
It translates pretty well. People who are, very good at ping pong, I would typically describe it as ping pong if you could run on the table, would be how I described it to people. And then, there's all kinds of funky spin and, lobs and drops and all this. And there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, no, definitely something that I want to try. And I feel like those tennis players are a lot like those people that, and I've run into them that played baseball, and they're like, and when you say you play softball, they're like, it's usually the young kids, but there are still people my age that are like, I would never play softball. I still play baseball. I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
I don't want to be on a diamond that big.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And I know you said it. How do people get involved? You said there's an app that people can.
Yeah, I would start maybe with the app. Go find a court, and usually, I think generally speaking, in the mornings there are groups that show up. Just show up, watch a couple of games, talk to some people. They're super welcoming. Mention that you saw Jesse and Dave on public access. And, you're in.
On Let Freedom Ring too.
Yeah,
That's right.
We're not just we're on YouTube too. So
there you go.
Perfect.
which you might be watching this on YouTube right now. But all right, awesome. Well, that's great information. I definitely want to check it out. I've been pretty fascinated about it. So, but I want to talk about some other stuff because you mentioned it. I'm currently I'm in recovery. Jesse's in recovery. You're in recovery. So I just want to talk about that real quick. Now, you kind of mentioned it, like, in your everyday life, I don't go up to people, like, out of nowhere and say, but when it comes up, like, I have no problem, and I'm very new into it, and I have to be open for my own self. But, like, is that, you're pretty open about that? Obviously, we're on a show, I guess, and mention it.
I wasn't always open like that. There was
Yeah.
a time very early on where there was a lot of, I don't know if I would say shame. But I wasn't psyched that I had to, make this decision in my life initially. Come to find out after the fact, I realized it was like the most important thing I could have done for myself. But in my first meeting, I was forewarned that we were going to sit in a circle and people were going to go around the room and introduce themselves and say their name and then acknowledge the fact that they were alcoholic. And I was told you could just say that you're here to visit and gather information. And as it started around the room, this voice in my head very clearly said, "Don't say it." And it got to me, and I stammered, "I'm Dave, and I'm an alcoholic." And that voice very loudly said, "You just effed up." And now all that good time, pretty much any day that ends in a Y, you're no longer going to be able to drink because. For the first time, I had been openly and honest about my challenge with another person. I had been struggling with it internally. I jokingly say that for years I negotiated with myself, and I always ended up on the back end of a bottle. And waking up and realizing, God, this thing has me by the throat. and I wished I could control it, and I realized I couldn't control it. So I had to reconcile the fact that I had to acknowledge the fact that I had to go all or nothing, and that's a big step, and it's definitely doable. It's millions of people have done it, and it wasn't easy for me, but it has cracked me open to be a more introspective person, a more caring person, and it's changed my priorities.
Awesome. Yeah, no, so like that's just kind of how you knew enough was enough when you just couldn't get a grip on it.
Yeah, I would say, like, God, if I woke up on like a Monday or a Sunday and I was like just feeling miserable, I would say to myself, God, if I could bottle this feeling, I would never drink again. And yet I would. And it might be a couple days later, I might ride it out a day or two, and then start to feel a little bit better, and then the whole cycle repeats. It just. But what I realized too is that there was underlying emotional stuff that needed to be addressed, that I was arguably refusing to look at. So.
No, absolutely, and it's what I'm learning is like all the stories that you hear. Jesse said it on the show, and I've heard people say this. I thought I was unique. You know what I mean? But like
unique-initis.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But when you do talk to others about it, like, and I remember when I got to rehab, just hearing the same exact story that I'm like, what are you just? Were you there? Like, you're telling, that's my story. That's the same exact story, But I gotta ask this, and we've talked about it with Jesse on the show, but like, how has recovery, sobriety, like, changed your life?
There's a saying that so R&D is rip off and duplicate. I'm a big fan of that word. There's a saying that I picked up that I like, that is one of the highest forms of spiritual progress is the ability for an individual to suffer consciously. And by that, it's being aware of your pains, being aware of your struggles, being aware of what's going on with you emotionally, and not running to a drink or a drug or something else to avoid that. And I think in time there comes this kind of connection with I'm just going to say higher energy systems, that in the realization that long before Dave stepped on this planet, there were millions of other people here. It has it's grounded me in the sense that I am not unique. I thought that I was not an alcoholic if I didn't do X, Y, or Z. If I still had a car, if I still had a job, if I still had this or that. But at the end of the day, it's like, if it's getting to the point where the tail's wagging the dog, and you find yourself in a meeting, maybe you're an alcoholic. And maybe that's the best realization you can come to for yourself. And as you get better in recovery, those benefits extend to other people around you, like your family, your wife, your kids, your neighbors, your community. But that starts with that individual making a decision for thembselves that, all right, I'm out of excuses. I need to change something. And I think the big part of it is asking for help. That was a huge humbler for me. I thought I could figure it all out on my own, and I couldn't. So being humbled in the process was instrumental.
Awesome. No, yeah, I totally understand that. Do you want to say something, Jesse?
I blew through so many stop signs on my journey to get where I'm at today, and I used to beat myself up about, I'm present now, and I think, why couldn't I have done this forever ago? When at the first stop sign, 16 years old, I got, arrested for driving under the influence at 16. And that's a big one. And it just didn't stop me. But I used to beat myself up over why I didn't stop then. And I've learned that I would just drive myself insane if I kept doing that. So the biggest thing for me in my recovery is just, Dave spoke about it, is just being present, being here in the now. And, if I continue to do what keeps me happy, that the ones around us will see that, and hopefully it'll extend out to them. And because I have a calmness and an inner peace, not all the time because life happens, but that I wouldn't trade for a drink or a drug or anything else, really. And I just, I'm humbled and grateful that I'm here now. And the fact that it didn't happen when I was 16 or 20 or 30 or 40 even. This is when I first tried to put a handle on this thing. It's happening now, and that's all I have is right now.
No, I like that. That's all we have is right now, because I sometimes have that internally going like, there were the stop signs, right? And I didn't, and I truly can say though, like there's nothing I can do to change it because I know in that I wouldn't have. Like I just wasn't there yet, and for me I had to get to that point, where it's
Right.
like, nope, you can't just go to a meeting, you need to get yourself to a hospital,
Right. I've heard, it's one of my favorite things that I've heard just from hanging around people, is that rock bottom for me is when I got tired of digging.
Yeah.
I just got fed up with not being able to live my life the way I wanted to anymore, and I couldn't do what I wanted to do because I was, shackled by, my addictions. And then asking for help was very, very hard, very difficult, but I'm grateful that I did it when I did. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to y'all right now.
No, absolutely. And I just have a question kind of for both of you, like, and maybe this helps others in recovery. Like, I'm definitely hitting that point where the pink cloud, right? We talk about that when you're first sober. You're so like, wow, life is so amazing. And I'm still feeling that way, right? I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky guy. But it's starting to fade. There is a lot of bullshit in life that you have to deal with. And, I've come to reality, I'm going to lose people. And bad stuff is going to happen. So I'm finding that I read the acceptance passage a lot. But even yesterday, I had someone attacking me. They literally like gaslighting me in messages. And I kind of read it and I was like, old me would just start arguing with them. And I went, I can't find serenity in doing that, right? I have to, So I didn't. And to be honest, I spent less time being upset than I generally would have been before. But what do you guys, when tough moments happen, like, how do you guys face that?
Well, I think you kind of said it yourself. Is that you saw yourself getting spun up, right? And I think in recovery you realize that you're given a toolbox, and a lot of the options is in the tool. One of the tools is aware. The biggest tool for me is awareness. Possession is 9/10 of the law, and if you can be aware of your emotions and realize, like, what, this conversation that I'm having right now is getting me spun up. I'm not feeling serene. I'm not feeling at peace. And you'll feel that because your palms will get sweaty, your fists will get clenched, you'll get flushed in the face, or whatever number of different things. Your body will react to whatever the emotion is that you're putting out. And then you just got to call a timeout on yourself and be like, all right, maybe I'll implement the 3-day rule. Maybe I don't have to respond to this guy right away or this person, whatever the situation is, right? Maybe you talk yourself down using some other tools. Like this is just one example, but say you're driving down the road and someone's climbing up your backside in their car and they're tailgating you, and you start to notice that you're getting all fired up. Well, one of the things you can say to yourself, and this may sound ridiculous, but it's a way of remapping your kind of inner dialogue. But it's people, you might say to yourself, oh, well, people do things that annoy me, not necessarily to annoy me. So it's like kind of reframing the contextual relationship you're having with this this experience. And you fall down 10 times, you stand up 11, and you learn. And then maybe your quickness to seeing that in the process will strengthen. But it's a challenge. I thought that coming into getting sober, like the bluebirds would land on my shoulder, and life would just be glorious, and everything would just fall into place. And I guess everything does fall into place if I have the right mindset of acceptance and not my will, but it is what it is. And one thing that I thought I heard you guys talking about too is that what I realized too is that you talked about the now, right? And so if I said to you, like, what time is it? And you might look at your terrestrial clock and you say, well, it's whatever, it's 6:20 or whatever it is. But the answer is really it's now, and it's never not now, right? So this present moment now is always here. It's what we have, right? But what I didn't realize was that my drinking, whatever it was, the ego or the alcoholic thinker brain or whatever, was always manipulating my storyline to include a projection into the future or a thought about something that happened in the past. Because in the now, like, you can address all of that, but it would say to me, like, well, you don't want to quit drinking now because a couple of days from now it'll be Friday, and then it'll be Saturday, and you know what happens on Friday and Saturday, right? Or it's going to be a wedding or an anniversary, whatever it is, your St. Patty's Day, or there's a million excuses, right? But the process will involve a projection of time, and it'll say, like, well, you don't want to quit now, quit tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, and then it's the same thing, like, well, quit tomorrow. And ultimately, people have to come to this, if this is important to them, they have to say, I got to do it now. And for me personally, it was a bit of a burn. I had to suffer through that initial process, because as soon as I started getting sober, that voice said, uh-oh, Dave's onto something. We got to start throwing everything in the kitchen sink at him mentally to get him back into our control. And fortunately, I was listening to some other voices, people who were in recovery saying this is natural, just stay with it, one day at a time or whatever it was. And sometimes one day at a time is too much, right? And you just gotta bring it back to where you are here and now. So
I like that a lot. Just anything you want to add to that, or?
It's gonna be tough to follow.
Yeah, no, that was that was good
in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Next
but
question.
it's so true though. Like, you got to live in the now. You know,
Yes.
I hear this all the time. It's like life is a temporary experience, right? We're not here forever, and it's like all the bullshit that I dwelled on and everything. It's like, you're right. What am I doing right now? I'm on the show. I'm doing this, and time will pass too. Like, it's so true. You get so hooked on things, and the past is the past, and what's the future we don't know. So why,
When I play pickleball, I'm not worried about filing my taxes. I'm worried about not getting drilled in the face.
Right. Or stepping in the kitchen.
Right. So that helps to bring me kind of present moment, And similar, like when I used to ride enduros in the woods, and I wasn't worried. I was worried about getting impaled by a tree. But the point is like you're present. You're aware. You're feeling, the ups and downs of life. And
Right.
and my default, if I'm not careful, would be to just slip out of that and start worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow and next week and a month from now, and then that starts to create the fear, the worry, the anxiety, and you just got to bring it back. Here I am.
No, I like that a lot. No, really good stuff. I do want to ask, I have two more things I want to ask. I want to do some top fives here. Do you have a top 5 favorite movies?
Ooh, top 5 favorite movies. Probably Braveheart might be one of them.
Okay. If there isn't 5, that's okay too, because sometimes it does happen.
Let Jesse pick a couple. I'm sure I have 5. I'll off the top of my head. I don't know.
I've done this before.
Yeah.
What were your top 5?
I don't remember. Blues Brothers.
Yes, that's one of my all-time favorites.
Anchorman might be. Anchorman might have to be up there.
That's probably my favorite comedy.
Yeah.
I used to be able to quote that movie all the time. It was like my everyday life, just quoting something from Anchorman.
Some of the National Lampoon's Vacation movies.
Those are good.
Were pretty
The
good.
Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling and and Russell Crowe.
Oh, the nice. I'm thinking. Wait a second. What was the one with the? No, I can't even think of it. I don't know. The Rockets killed right at the beginning of the movie. Oh, Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. What was that one?
The Other Guys.
The Other
Which
Guys.
is another.
Okay.
That's a top 5 comedy for me.
That was. I like
The,
that.
the Italian Job. That was one I liked.
Is there TV shows that you're watching at all?
Not really.
You guys playing so much pickleball?
Yeah.
You don't
Pickleball,
have time
softball.
Yeah, pretty much.
Work, family.
I stopped watching the news. I just I was finding it was spinning me up, and I was just like, I get the important news globally on some of the social media stuff, and I kind of hit it tangentially, but I don't want. I don't know.
Yeah,
I might go on Netflix and just stream stuff, but generally not a lot.
I'll watch games. Big game tonight.
I guess there's not. I mean, I have like all time. It takes a lot. Like I just watched this one show, The Sinner with Bill Pullman and Jessica Biel was in it. That's my problem with the Netflix thing is that I start one and now I'm so used to watching I'm a big movie guy. If you can't tell, I'm wearing a Scream shirt. But like I'll start a Netflix show and then it's like I just keep going and I'm like, stop, go to bed. So I gotta work on that piece.
Have you watched Bloodline?
I haven't, but
that might be one worth binge watching. That was one that
Is that Netflix?
That was I don't know if it's Netflix or Amazon, but Bloodline. Yep.
I'll check it out. I mean, yeah, I got to realize when you watch TV show, go back to traditional watching TV where you had to wait a week. Now it's like, because I watch movies, I just want it all right now.
That was my favorite part about Game of Thrones. They were pretty good about keeping those under wrap.
Yeah.
So it was once a week, and I got together with some friends, and we'd watch it. And then I would have to go the next day and read online what I just watched because there's so many characters and so much going on. But I agree. I prefer appointment television more than having everything at my fingertips.
Yeah, just for sleep purposes.
Unless it's Peaky Blinders. If it's Peaky Blinders, I need all of it right now.
What was that CIA show that was on?
Blacklist?
No.
No, that's CSI.
No, it was. It'll come to me. Yeah.
There's a lot of it's almost like there's just so much stuff to watch, and I have a lot of the streaming stuff now. Don't really have the cable like I used to, so like I got to find ways to watch wrestling and things like that because everybody knows, Not that I watch as much wrestling as I used to because there's a lot of it out there. But I want to ask this real quick. It was announced today the Patriots, Tom Brady's coming home, not to play. Those days are over, but he's going to be at the home opener. Any take on that? Are you a big Patriots fan? I don't even know that.
I used to be. I've learned over the years to stop investing too much emotional energy in New England sports. And like the Bruins game the other night was a great example of why.
Right.
Call me a fair weather fan, whatever you want. But I think for me personally, Tom Brady's ship has sailed in my heart. Either retire and go out and go move on, but I don't know. I got annoyed with the whole, I'm here and then I'm there and then I'm coming back. Now I'm retiring and great. I think Tom Brady will have a big part in New England's heart for a long time.
I think that they should unveil a statue that day. I really do. If Ray Lewis is a statue in Baltimore, Tom Brady should have like 3 in New England.
I would agree if he's willing to come back and commit his roots to New England.
Yeah, well, my brother kept saying, he goes, Robert Kraft announced this, the Patriots announcement, nothing on Brady's social media at all about it.
I had to Google it because I didn't even know that he was coming back, and the only thing I could find was this homecoming game in San Francisco. that was in 2022, so I wasn't really quite sure where you were going with that.
Yeah, no, it was announced today. The Patriots announced it, and then Robert Kraft put out a video that for the home opener, we're bringing Tom. I would have liked to see it in October, because they definitely brought Edelman back. Was it last year? And it wasn't the opening game. And I got a lot of people saying like, well, because the Patriots aren't putting that great of a team out, they gotta go, get Brady.
Props.
And, I'm happy for Tom to come back. I would like to go to that. If they are unveiling if there is a statue, I would love that.
Right.
But we'll see what happens with that. But anyways, yeah.
I didn't get anything from that. I just thought, as Dave said, with the leaving and coming back, retiring from the game, and I think it would have been a better play had he just retired after winning the Super Bowl, even if it is in Tampa. I mean, Brady and his record versus the Bills it's
pretty stellar.
It's ridiculous. So there's a lot of respect for what he was able to do for so long, but he turned into Brett Favre at the end.
I don't think he was as bad as Favre, because Favre did it a couple times, but even if so, once he retired, it's over, and that's hard.
I almost came on this show and retired from softball. The last time I was here, I was going to make an announcement. Not that anybody cares.
Yeah,
but
I care.
I
don't care.
I did exactly. I didn't, and now I found a team to play with, and the season's young, but I truly enjoy being in the game still. I don't play as much as I used to, and don't have the skills if I ever had them. I don't know if I did, but so I can totally understand where Brady's coming from, having a hard time walking away. Because I do too, on a much, 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 much lower level.
See, I don't ever really want to walk away. A lot of people probably think I have walked away from softball because I have not been around yet this year. But that's what I need to be doing right now. And softball will always be there. So,
absolutely.
When people get all bent out of shape about me not being, well, it's none of your business, one, but
exactly.
Two, it's not forever, But I do want to get in buy or sell, and I will ask you first. Jesse's Buffalo Bills, are you buying or selling their 2023 season coming up?
Am I buying or selling?
Yeah.
I'm fire selling that.
You think that...
no good. No bueno.
As far as don't think they will be good, or do you?
I don't really care. I just don't like them because Jesse likes them.
Fair enough.
I'm buying what he's selling, and they're going to be great this year.
You're going to reno it? You're going to flip it?
I'm going to flip it for real. No, they're taking their lumps. Same thing happened to Jordan. He had to take his lumps from the Pistons before he became who he was. So Josh Allen's doing the same thing. He's taking his lumps right now. He's got to mess with Mahomes and Burrow for the foreseeable future, and he's going to come out on top. I'm not worried about it.
To their credit, they have radically improved over the years.
They have.
So nice job, Jesse.
Are you saying this is the year then? Is that what you're claiming here? Or...
Let's do it. Buffalo Bills, 2023 Super Bowl champions.
All right, let's make sure we hold on to that clip, Justin.
Do you have a wager on that?
No, I don't do that.
Are you guys buying or selling the XFL? What did you think? Did you guys get to see any XFL this year? Anything? Any hype? Nothing?
I can't remember if I like the Battlehawks or the Defenders.
Well, the Defenders are in the championship game.
Okay, good. I know you like the Defenders and your brother's a Battlehawks guy.
Yes. I didn't get to watch a lot this year, though. I have to say I am all in on the New England Free Jacks take up a lot of my time when it comes to sports now. So I missed quite a few of those games. But I am pulling for the Defenders this weekend in the championship.
Let's do it.
Here's one. It's an interesting one. I don't want to start up too much controversy, but Generation Z, Gen Z. Buy or sell Gen Z?
Am I in Gen Z?
No, you're
Gen
either
X.
millennial or Gen X.
You might be bottom of Gen X.
Yeah.
You just made the cut, I think.
Right.
And I just made it as a millennial, I think, depending on who you ask.
Right. Gen Z is, making the best out of their situation, I guess.
There's so much stuff going on with all the technology, right?
Right.
I'm afraid that they're not. I'm not saying I'm rugged, but like we're in the transition zone where we didn't have the ease of information. I think it feels like they got to get out there and grind a little bit more, and that stuff comes too easy. And when the stuff gets a little hard, they're quick to like flip their way out of it. Although I will say though, in a part-time job that I have, and I have an interaction with these younger kids, they seem to be relatively polite, and the use of "sir" comes back, and I don't know where that's coming from, but I didn't bring it back, but
Right. Yeah, I work with young folks in Fast Life. They're a younger team, and it's like
They're probably like a mix of Gen Z and millennials.
yeah, they're on an individual basis, they're all great, but it's tough to lump.
Yeah, see, I was always afraid that I was going to get older, and because I hated that, Oh, you millennials, and it feels like even 5 years ago it was, oh, you millennials. Now everything's flipped to Gen Z. It's
And
like,
you
all
know
right,
who's saying that? The millennials.
yeah,
Because just the generation before mine was,
the boomers are the ones that just hate us all, right?
oh yeah,
They're
I will say too that in their defense, I mean they are getting barraged with so much information, and
while their brains are developing.
yeah, and this is their norm. Whereas we can be a little more maybe introspective and looking at it from 30,000 feet and looking at it and be like, this isn't necessarily the way it always was or is. So I think social media has had a major impact on their development.
And
it's a different struggle.
Pro
with cyberbullying.
pro and con.
And that's I think that's my big thing. Every generation's going to have something. And I know that the bullying on social media is like far worse than anything that we ever had to worry about. I mean, we had instant messenger, but like now it's like people can take a video of you, they can embarrass
Right.
you.
I feel like I would have rather get stuffed in a locker than
than
have all the.
I'm thinking like I'll meet you out at the
Well, even
chains.
think about it. Think about
the
this. Like
flagpole.
someone embarrasses you and it gets all these likes. So now it's like they didn't just embarrass you. Now all these other people are liking it. So
Right, and then it creates controversy. Well, you're my friend, and you like this post, and
Yeah.
now we're not friends, and it's too much.
But anyways, Dave, thank you for coming on
Thank
the
you.
show today.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it. Jesse, thanks for co-hosting.
Thanks for the invite.
Of course, anytime.
So everybody out there, have a great week. Keep your heads up. Until next time, let freedom ring.